Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 28. Another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. And yes, I am wearing a fleece, 28-degree heat, because the COVID has finally got me. So I do apologise if I sniffle and wheeze throughout this, but the Dinosaw must go on. So here we go. First of all, we have the Apple lockdown mode just announced. So this will go into iOS 16 and the new Mac OS Ventura. And this is, as they say, for users, and not for everybody. This is for users who face grave targeted threats on their digital security. So you're either happening to you right now and you need to clamp down, or you're about to go into a situation where that could happen, maybe a country, maybe a situation, and you want to do any of the stuff on the right-hand side. So messages and attachments will be mostly blocked. Web browsers will be far more speculative about whether they actually run JavaScript in them. You will not be targeted with any new Apple services, only existing ones. If you try and connect it to a hardwired device whilst you are in locked mode, then nothing will happen. And also you won't be able to install a configuration profile. So that's normally gives a service or a platform a deeper level of access to your phone. So unfortunately, the world is going more in this direction where you need to do this. Now, this is something that Apple can do, and obviously Google, Facebook, etc. are really known for sharing data. They want as much data out of you as possible. So this is exactly where Apple are laying out their stall right now. So there you go. So Apple lockdown mode. It's the first one we've seen of this weight. It really just gives you a sense of where we're going with privacy right now. This is FIFA's semi-automated offside technology, and I have to say semi-automated because there is a human involved or several. So it uses a ball. This is an Adidas specific ball with a sensor in it. That sensor is pinged 500 times a second by some sensors. There are also lots of cameras that can track each player with 29 limb nodes, so they can see hands, wrists, elbows, legs, feet, that sort of thing. So they can tell where everybody is and what they're doing with the ball. So if it detects an offside, which I won't go into it now because it'll either take 20 years to explain or 3 seconds to explain, depending on who you are. Basically, if it detects offside, then it will be flagged up to the central HQ. And then the referee will be told, and then the information that was actually gathered live can be or will be used to create a live animation of what went on. So hopefully it's going to be slightly more advanced than the animations you're seeing here, but that's what they're planning. So Qatar, I think it kicks off quite literally in November this year, November to December. So watch that. So obviously, there's a little flag on there saying it was in the VAR room. So there's also already technology involved in this sort of thing, and to various consternation from fans across the world. So this might be another one that's either going to be a talking point or it might be a stroke of genius. There you go. Who knows? Oculus, I've done a 180 on what you need to actually sign up to the Oculus, or let's say the metaverse. They'd love me to say that. So previously, you could actually have an Oculus developer account. About 2 years ago, that all stopped and you had to have a Facebook account. So begrudgingly, a lot of people created a very thin Facebook account to be able to sign into their Oculus. So they've now done 180 degrees and say, well, you do not need a Facebook account anymore. You need a brand new Meta account. So it does away with those other two. You can still have those other two. You can have a Facebook account. You can have an Oculus account, but it'll actually be sort of subordinate to the Meta account. You can also attach your Instagram account to this as well, just so people can find you in different places. However, the main thing is here that you need a main Meta account. So that's new. That's also probably quite interesting that you really don't want to be associated with Facebook, probably because of the demographic, the older demographic, should we say, and the slightly dodgy demographic on Facebook is probably not doing them any favours when they want to sort of purvey what the future should be of an all-accessible utopia, and Facebook is not a great example of that. So that's what's going on there, probably. Now, you also do need to create a social profile attached to this, which is called your Meta Horizon profile. So this is almost the equivalent of your, excuse me, your Instagram profile. So you can have as many of these as you want. You can be, by day, you can be an expert in the metaverse, and by the by night you can be maybe a gamer or whatever you want to do, doing reviews or exploring different wares. So you can have as many of those as you want. Where they're probably going with this is also they want different layers of account as well. So they'll probably be having a work account pretty soon. They do mention it, but it's very, very low down in all their sort of T's and C's, so to speak. So they probably do want you and your company to be doing your meetings in the metaverse pretty soon. They also go to pains to say that they're not actually tracking any of this. Anything you do currently against your profile will not get used for advertising against you, and likewise if you're using pass-through mode, which uses the camera and the sensors in the headsets themselves to see your physical environment, to give you essentially a kind of a see-through of the chairs in front of you so you don't trip up on them. It says that is not actually being processed unless you want it to be, unless you send them a video of it or something like that. So they're at sort of pains to say that they are not Facebook, should we say. There you go. Lithium sulfur battery breakthrough. So this is two things here. One is, for those of you who still spell sulfur with a PH, I've got news for you. It was actually overturned a couple of years ago. It is now universally SULFUR. There you go. Who'd have thought? Mainly us Brits will feel a bit cheesed off about that. However, the point of this is a lithium sulfur battery, and this is all. It's been a sort of a, could we do it? Could we not do it? But it's always been elusive because of the chemistry involved. So. Why is this even interesting? Well, lithium-ion batteries use nickel and cobalt as the anode. Nickel and cobalt are rare metals, and they destroy the earth, and they're very difficult to get, and they use a huge amount of water to process them, etc., etc. But if you try and use what you could use is sulfur, but the only problem with sulfur is it coats the anode, the cathode, I think it is. So basically what's happening is you're seeing here is as you try and charge it up, it kind of sticks to the electrodes either side of it and eventually renders it useless. So what they tried to do is trying to figure out how they could get this kind of, oh, you're seeing it right here, this kind of nano mesh where they could probably trap the sulfur items. But actually what they found is it didn't actually go into the sponge, the nano sponge, it actually sat on top of it, which they're not quite sure why it happened. So it's a bit of a mystery. So they're still trying to find out exactly what went on there. But what the benefit of it is that the sulfur did not actually go into a sort of a solution within the battery, and therefore it remains separate. So you could keep charging it more than you could actually a normal battery, a lithium-ion battery. So not only is it potentially more efficient, it's actually much, much easier to mine, much more environmentally friendly. It can have 3 times the capacity, and it can last for twice the duration as well. So you can either have a third of the size battery for the same amount of power, which is amazing. They're also looking at trying to use sodium instead of lithium as well, so that might make it even more environmentally friendly because obviously sodium is readily available in salt. So battery technology is coming at you pretty fast at the moment. It might be 5 to 6 years before we see that in actual cars and or batteries. This is one of those ones where we've seen quite a lot of separate things, and all of a sudden they're starting to come together. So we've seen before what's called ghost imaging. Now what ghost imaging does is allows a camera with some sort of algorithm, shall we say, to look at light that's bounced off a surface. So if you, for instance, illuminate the letter T, and that will give you this kind of vague, fuzzy sort of red colour on a wall. Actually what you can do is you can recover elements of that, so almost like imperceptible diffractions of that T, and you can recreate it. So now what they're doing is they're now using that directly into your optical cortex. So they're reading what the eye is seeing, they're reading what goes into the optical cortex, and then they're doing the same thing. So pretty soon you'll be able to be walking down the street and you'll be seeing things around corners. Clearly this has got military applications, those sorts of things. But also when you're looking at, for instance, augmented reality glasses, that might be something that is something that would be quite useful. Possibly also in cars as well. So if you're looking at automated systems that can see things coming around the corner, who knows? There you go. Brainwaves and sight. Basically the lock screen on your phone is getting a lot of heat at the moment. So Apple announced that they were going to add more widgets to it. You can customize it much more than you did before, but pretty much it's just what you want will be on there. Android has always had a slightly more sort of flexible approach to this, and there's a company that I noticed called Glance who have this system, which is you install it and actually they put content directly on your lock screen, so you're never quite sure what it's going to be. I guess you can sign up for slightly different things, but what I thought was really interesting is they actually had a 3-day Glance Live Fest. So this was a 3-day festival, and it was streamed live for 3 days, and obviously you could dip in and out of it when you looked at your home screen. I thought it was a really interesting way of doing it rather than actively have to go into it and see what was going on. So I thought it was just a really neat thing. Obviously, if you are thinking, well, this is advertising chasing me down at every single opportunity, you're absolutely right. But I thought it was just a really interesting way of doing a live fest using your home screen. I thought it was interesting. There you go. And finally, we have the Robo taxis of San Francisco. So these had I think a license in February, I think, of this year to run, but they required a driver in them as well. And I think as of June, so about a month and a bit, they've been running driverless, but for free, I think it is, obviously with the plan to use a paying service soon. These run, I think, from 10 till 6 a.m. in the morning, so it's usually when the streets are a little bit less busy. However, they've not been having a great time of late. There have been lots of sort of confusion, shall we say, with their automated system, and they've just been shutting down in the middle of the street. I think there was one traffic jam with 6 cars just all sort of just backed up. They weren't moving, so GM, General Motors, had to send out some humans to go and move them. But that said, I think this is a huge step forwards. Yeah, there will always be some glitches along the way, but if you weren't aware, that's also happening in San Francisco. There are automated taxis driving around San Francisco, not without its issues, but it's a lot better than we thought. There you go. Watch that space. More soon. Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully I kept it together enough. If you liked it, give it a like. If you can share it with somebody awesome who you think might like this stuff, that would be amazing as well. Hopefully I will see you next week.